The On3 rankings have been updated, so let's bring on Director of Scouting and Rankings, this guy right here, Charles Power. We're in the middle of summer, Charles, and this is the third ranking update for the 2024 cycle. What data points and factors were you looking at when you updated the rankings?
Yeah, I think you have to start, Josh, with the in-person evaluations. We were at several national events this summer, the Elite 11 finals, the OT7 finals. We had time to go back and watch a lot of the camp footage and go through a lot of those results from the spring. And additionally, we just added a bunch of new verified measurements from guys getting on campus, working our sources there, and kind of just getting a complete picture of where the overall cycle stands going into the fall.
All right, well, heading into this update, there was 10 5-stars here at On3. Now we have 15, so let's look at the newly minted 5-stars. Quarterback Julian Graham, wide receiver Milan Graham, defensive lineman David Stone, linebacker Justin Williams, and running back Nathaniel Frazier. Let's start at the top here with Julian Graham. Not only did he earn his 5th star, but he jumps to the #1 spot, bumping Dylan Raiola into 2. What went into this ranking?
Yeah, I think Julian Graham, when you look at the entire body of work that he's put together dating back to the junior year and what he did in the month of June, I don't know if any prospect had a stronger month of June, really the week in June that we spent out in California watching him at the Elite 11 finals. He was the On3 MVP there, also was the MVP for the Elite 11 staff, and then showed up 2 days later or a day later and had one of the best 7-on-7 performances I've seen from a quarterback in the last couple years at the OT7 finals. It was just a phenomenal week, and I think Julian saying the consistency of the performance is at this point hard to deny in a quarterback cycle that's not extremely loaded at the top, maybe relative to like last year where we had all of those 5-stars early in the process. I think Julian Graham has done enough to put himself in pole position as the #1 quarterback, and he currently checks in at #7 overall for us.
Well, Alabama, they just land. Well, they didn't even land another 5-star, but they gain a 5-star in Julian Graham. Another team that gains a 5th star on their commitment list is Ohio State with Milan Graham, the 6'1.5", 185-pound wide receiver. What makes Milan Graham a 5-star?
Milan Graham, I think, has a strong argument as the best route runner in this cycle. The 2024 cycle was extremely strong at receiver, and he is just like probably the most technical receiver that we've seen to this point. Guy who can really separate, can create separation within his routes. He's got good ball skills. He's got good size. He's around 6'1", 185 pounds. Actually reminds me, Josh, after seeing him in person, a little bit of Amari Cooper, a guy that we saw back in the day. Yeah. And I think Milan Graham going to Ohio State, like Brian Hartline has just a wide receiver factory pumping out first-rounders. I think their recruiting classes have accounted for 4 first-rounders in the last two drafts. They're going to have maybe 2 more this year. I think Milan Graham and Jeremiah Smith are going to keep it rolling at Ohio State.
Absolutely unbelievable. All right, so those first 2, they're committed. Now, the next 3 guys we're going to talk about are not committed. First up, defensive lineman David Stone, originally out of Oklahoma City, but he attends IMG Academy. David Stone goes 6'4", 278 pounds. He can move. Why is he a 5-star now?
I think that's where you start. He's big, he's long, he can really move. David Stone has, I think, continued to get better since he's been at IMG. Just going back and watching his camp and combine performances from this spring, just extremely disruptive. He's dominant in every setting. A guy who I think can move around different spots on the defensive line. The defensive line is a strong position in this cycle, but I think going into the fall, David Stone is worthy of being a 5-star, and now he's a 5-star plus.
Now let's go down a little bit south to Conroe, Texas, where we find linebacker Justin Williams, the #1 linebacker in America, 6'2", 210, and he is now a 5-star. We talked about him early on the show. He's being recruited by Georgia, Oregon. It's a tough battle right now, but why is he a 5-star recruit?
I think you have to start off with the speed. Justin Williams is extremely fast. This guy who ran a 4.44 laser in the spring. He backed that up on the track. He ran around an 11-second 100-meter. I remember when we were first putting these rankings together about a year ago, Justin Williams was a safety. Yeah. We projected him to linebacker. He's filled out. He's added size and speed. And then when you watch him play as a junior, this guy is playing true Mike linebacker and running sideline to sideline. So I think he has showed a lot of projectable tools, really productive as a junior, and I think the arrow's pointing up for him.
All right, speaking of speed, running back Nathaniel Frazier gets a 5th star. He's 5'10.5", 205 pounds, out of Santa Ana, California. What makes Nathaniel Frazier a 5-star?
Nathaniel Frazier, in our opinion, has the best overall skill set at running back. He's got the straight line speed, track speed, a guy who consistently runs sub 11 in the 100 meters. He is dynamic on Friday nights playing at Mater Dei. I think has exceptional contact balance, got a good build. He's got, that's one thing we look at running back is the build and ability to take on contact. He's around 210 pounds with that speed and athleticism, can catch the ball to the backfield. I think the biggest thing we're looking for from Nate Frazier is just continued production. He's in a split backfield at Mater Dei, but when you just look at the overall skill set, he looks like the top back in the class to us.
Yeah, he is right now the top back in the class. All right, those are the new 5 stars. When I look at the rankings, I always look at who are the big movers. So we're going to take a look at a few of these. Moving on up, quarterback Luke Kromenhoek. He goes from 45 to 27. The Florida State commitment. He's been looking good throughout the offseason. Why the big jump for him?
I think Luke Kromenhoek showed perhaps the highest upside of any quarterback we saw at the Elite 11 finals. Big arm, can drive the ball downfield. I think he has well above average athleticism and movement skills. The biggest thing with Luke Kromenhoek is this was his first, his junior year was his first year as a varsity starter.
Yeah.
So we're kind of expecting him to take a more of a jump as a senior, but I think the upside that he showed at the Elite 11 finals is really encouraging.
All right, well right now he's a borderline 5-star sitting there at number 27 overall. Running back Jordan Marshall, committed to Michigan, goes from 76 to 31. Tell me about his move.
Yeah, Jordan Marshall, if you were going to build a Michigan running back in a lab, this is the guy. He is rocked up, stout, and is really, I think, good in every area, like well above average in every area. One thing with Jordan Marshall that caught our eye is he has added speed over the past year. That was an area that he could improve. Came out and ran some really impressive track times. Looked good in the camp setting, and I think when you pair that with how good he is on Friday nights, he's just a tough runner, a guy who can pick up tough yards after contact, catches the ball well. A guy who, when putting him in Michigan's offense, I think he brings a lot to the table, and will remind you of some of the high-end running backs they have on roster right now.
Up next, we got wide receiver TJ Moore, who's committed to Clemson. Now, Clemson goes into the Tampa Bay area and steals a good one. He was good at 139th overall. Now he's 64. Why the big jump for TJ Moore?
When we were going through this receiver group and kind of just taking a look at the group in general, TJ Moore stuck out as a guy that we thought was a little too low. Going back and looking at some of his track results this spring was very encouraging. He's run good times in the 100 meters. He's athletic in the high jump. And then watching, one thing, Josh, that I know you're familiar with is they play spring ball in Florida. Going back and watching his spring game and doubling back to the junior year, I think he just has a really just a well-rounded skill set, good size at over 6'2", 180. Like I said, the athleticism, but he is silky smooth, ball skills, and that's one thing that we look at with receiver. It's a skill position, so it's, how technical are you with your routes? How can you change directions? How are your ball skills? Well, I think TJ Moore checks all those boxes. So we were really encouraged going through it and kind of circling back to his junior year and watching him in the spring.
Now, the last name on the list, LJ McCray, is a defensive lineman out of the state of Florida. He's another one of those big athletic bodies. He goes from 66 to 34, borderline 5-star. What makes him so highly ranked now?
Yeah, we've been high on LJ McCray from the beginning. I really liked what we saw from him as a junior at Daytona Mainland, but he's a guy who has continued to progress. I think you start off with his size and length. He's a guy who, while ranked as a defensive lineman, if we looked up in a couple years and he's drafted as a defensive end, it wouldn't surprise me. Like, there's just, with the variety of fronts that defenses play now, this is a guy who could play all over the place. But similar to TJ Moore, had a really good spring, and I think just taking stock of what is a very strong D-line group, like we're bullish on LJ McCray's upside, and I think he's a guy who is going to continue to get better the more and more he plays. All
right, well, those were the big movers. We introduced you to the new 5 stars. This was the 3rd update to the On3 rankings. But Charles, it wasn't the last update. So Tim, give me like a name or two of guys that you got on 5-star watch for the next rankings update.
So we're at 15 5-stars now. I could see us being around 20. I think you have to look at the corners. I think you look at Charles Lester or Wardell Mack. I think seeing those guys play, those are two that we did not see this summer. So I think seeing those guys play on Friday nights will be informative. And I look at the linemen. We have no offensive line 5-stars right now.
That's crazy.
And we were talking about that. So I think not being able to see those guys in the summer the way the camp shook out, we're going to be heavy on the big guys and kind of seeing how they look early on in their senior year.
Heavy on the big guys. We love it. All right. All the rankings have been updated. Go to on3.com to find out your favorite team's highest ranked player. Thanks for coming by the Inside Scoop today, Charles.
Sure thing.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. And remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.